Welcome back, everybody. This is Hutch from Hutch High Perf. Today, I'm talking about valve covers. I'm using screw-in studs and then putting the roller rockers on, and then you've got the jam nuts that go on top of that, and they actually stand up a little tall because the rocker has got to be able to move back and forth and not hit like the shoulder of the stud. So it's a little tall. In fact, from what I can figure out, it's the tallest portion inside the valve cover. So if I can get the valve cover to sit on and not hit those nuts, then I should be okay. So I've been trying a bunch of different valve covers that I have. I got 4 different styles here, and trying to figure out what's going to work. I'm also trying to figure out what I want to use, because it's all about aesthetics with me. If it doesn't look good, I don't want to use it even if it works. So let me grab the camera and I'll go through what I have and some of the options I have, and we'll get cracking. Here are the 4 different style of valve covers that I have. One of these I'm hoping is going to work with my application. We're going to have to find that out. But let me take a sec here and I'll go through each one of them individually. These are the factory valve covers that came on the 307 that came in my 442. This is a set of 73, 74 Olds regular height valve covers, but they have the script on it, which I want that script, so keep that in mind. Then you've got a set of 67 to 72 big block Olds valve covers. These are just a hair bit taller, and both of them have notches cut out. So this small notch is for the master cylinder side. One that goes on the other side is a bigger notch, and that is for fitting the AC box with the valve cover. And then, of course, you've got the tall valve covers. I bought these at the show a couple years ago, and I don't like them. They fit just fine, but I don't like them. Do you know why? If you said because of where the air breather hole is, you would be correct. I cannot stand that. This is like a Chevrolet style position for where this breather or grommet would go in, either for like a little valve cover breather or a PCV valve. I can't stand that. This is what I like right here. This is traditional Oldsmobile. It's got that raised step, and it's got a specific shape to it. That is what I like. That is what you see on every Olds engine. And if I don't have that on mine, I'm just not going to be happy. So I've got to make one of these work. There's multiple things I could do. I could take the tall valve cover and I could cut the entire top off and then put the top from the script valve cover on the tall valve cover. That is an option. It would be a lot of welding, a lot of hammering, a lot of body working to make sure that it looks seamless, but I think I could probably do that if I had to. Here is the issue. All right, so let's take a look at the block itself. So for a 455 and a old small block 350, the engines are from the deck down identical. Everything works. Oil pan on a small block is going to fit on a big block. Engine mounts are going to work. A lot of everything underneath is going to fit just fine. Here's the problem. On a big block, once you get to the deck, because the deck is raised on this, so the height of the engine is higher than a small block, which means the heads are higher, which means your valve covers are going to be higher. And on a G-body, it can be tight, from what I understand. This is my first big block in a G-body, so I'm going to find out just like everybody else does when I put the engine in the car. But from what I understand, the space between the AC box on the passenger side and the valve cover is pretty tight. And if you go with tall valve covers, you either install the engine with the valve cover on and it never comes off unless you pull the engine out, or you're going to have to cut the AC box, or you're going to have to try to find a way to use the standard height valve cover. And so I'm going to try to do some hybrid combination and see if I can make this work. So we'll start with the stock 307s. Comes with a welded in baffle on the inside. There's a hump right in the center. This usually falls in between the two rockers, so this shouldn't get in the way. But I think this is going to be too shallow to work. Yeah, so it's sitting right on those the nuts on the studs. Another reason this is not desirable, these are the newer style valve covers. They don't have all the holes. So the ends don't have the center. You've just got the two on that end. And the rest of them aren't there. This is the new style valve cover. So it's a smaller amount of bolts that hold this thing on. It's not going to work anyway, so I'm not particularly worried about that. The old script valve cover actually has the baffles inside cut out. I was hoping maybe with the baffles out, you might be able to get this thing to sit. Even with that, it's pretty close. It's closer, but it's still not there. I always like to try to fit these without the gasket. The gasket is going to give me just a tiny bit of room, but the rubber gaskets, and they are going to squish a little bit. I don't like to rely on that, especially if you start tightening down and you hit a stop at the top of these and you can't crush it anymore and it actually doesn't seal correctly. I try to get the valve cover to sit all the way down, no gasket. That way when the gasket goes on, I know it's going to seal properly because I can tighten it down as much as I need to, as much as it's going to take. This is close, but still just a little bit off. Better than the stock 307s though. So let's go. Going to skip the big blocks and go straight to tall valve cover. Of course that's going to fit. There's plenty of room. So these may fit actually. I don't know. I'd have to wait until the engine is in the car and see if the AC box actually clears the valve cover. This will sit down, but again, the detractor from that is that stupid baffle. I cannot stand that thing where it is. It looks horrible. It looks like a small block Chevy valve cover. These aren't sitting a Chevy. So it's just got a very simplistic welded in baffle. What I may do is steal that baffle and use it on the big block valve cover. Big block has a very long baffle, goes the length of one side of the valve cover. You'll see those oily spots. I'll explain that in a second. So this one goes on, same thing. It's almost there, but it's just not quite there. So here's what I did. I took a dab of oil and I put on the end of each one of these nuts. And then I put the valve cover on and I pressed it and rocked it and made sure that it like touched any spot. On the inside, you see those two oil spots? That's where it hit. So while the oil was fresh, it's kind of soaked into the metal and kind of like worked itself out. But you can see there's scribe marks in there. Those were the actual spots. Other side was fine. Nothing hit on the other side. It's just those two where the baffle is. So one option is I cut this baffle out, use the smaller baffle from the tall valve covers, and because if I put the breather in without the baffle, you can get a lot of oil splash that comes up, and you can actually suck some oil back into the carburetor, air cleaner, wherever you happen to have that routed to. So I want to have the baffle in place just to kind of prevent any oil splash from doing that. And this is an option. So I think what I'm going to do first is just go straight animal on it. I'm going to drive, because it's not the metal, it's just like, it's pretty thin metal. It's nothing too substantial. I'm going to take a punch and I'm going to drive these two areas down. Try to dimple them out. Then I think maybe the valve cover will fit. We're going to find out. All right. It's an old 1/2-inch drive extension that I basically use to whack things with now, and a very big hammer. All right. Let's see if I can make a mess here. Oh, that's going to be a perfect size. Well, the baffle gave up the ghost. You know, what's going on in the world when you can't give a part that's not supposed to be beaten on a couple of love taps and it just breaks? I don't get it. Anyway, so a couple of the welds broke, so I was just like, you know what? I popped the whole thing off just to see what my clearance is without the baffle, and maybe I can use a portion of the original baffle that's there, maybe cut it down to something that'll fit, because there's like a spot right in between, like there's like a little sweet spot where you could have something there and it wouldn't interfere with anything. So that's flat. That fits fine. I like that. Ooh, let's look on the inside. Let us see what the old endoscope can see. All right. So there's the studs with the poly locks. And it looks like without the baffle, there's plenty of room. Even on max lift, I can't see anything interfering there. Well, yeah, it's tight. You're not going to eat dinner in there, but it is enough room. And this is no gasket. This is no gasket. Once the gasket goes in, I think we're going to be fine. I think I'm going to have all the clearance that I need. Oh, I did forget to mention one thing, okay? There is a company that makes an aluminum spacer for Oldsmobile that goes in between the valve cover and the head. But you'd have to double gasket. So there'd be a gasket on one side, your spacer, gasket. If I couldn't find anything else, I was going to use the 73, 74 script valve covers, and I was going to use the spacer. But I got to tell you, I like the look of having the notches on the back, the big block notches. So yeah, I think these are going to be my guys, and I'm just going to weld something right in there, a little baffle for the center. And I think what I may do, where'd that piece go? There it is. This thing's all jacked up. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'm just going to use my snips, and I'm going to cut right along here, right along there, leave this center section, this little step, and I may just put something, maybe I'll just tape it in if I can, and see if there's any clearance issues. And if it doesn't look like there is, then I'll just drill a couple of holes, and I'll burn some spot welds on both sides and put it back in the valve cover, and we should be ready to go. All right, let's get into this. Well, this is a good time to ask, are you subscribed? You don't even have to answer, I already know. Analytics tell me 83% of you guys aren't. So here's your opportunity. Right now, go subscribe. If you like what you see, help me out. All right, I need to get the metal down on this so I can burn some spots in this to hold this thing in. right. Tack 2 corners. Let's go see if it still fits. Hey, fall is here, and perfect time to go to the t-shirt shop. The long sleeves and the sweatshirts are in. So find something you like. Helps the project out. So speaking of the project, the baffle I just welded in, I cut it right back out. And it's one of those things. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So I think I'm going to stop until I get the engine in the car. Because I had to go throw some clothes on, go out, get a haircut, come back. And before I came out here, I was just looking online, trying to find maybe a little bit of information about what kind of baffle is best for like stopping oil consumption, that kind of thing. And I found a very, very interesting article, and it talked about the different styles of baffles. And I think what I was putting in was actually not going to be the best thing. So I'm probably going to just make it myself. But I think I'm chasing my tail right now because even if it fits on the engine, I got to get it in the car, and I've got to see the fitment and what kind of space do I have in between the valve cover and the AC box. And I can't do that where it's at. It needs to be in the vehicle. And I may be forced to have to use a shallow valve cover to be able to like get it around the housing and over top of the rockers to be able to put it down. So even if it fits here on the engine stand, it may still be too tall to actually wedge in, if you know what I'm talking about, to wedge in between that space that the rocker arms give me and then the box. And if it doesn't, if I can't rock it in there and put it down, then it's not going to work anyway, regardless of the height. And it may be I need a shallow valve cover that actually will make that hook and get in there. This is all assumptions because, like I said, I got to actually get it on the car. But I may end up having to buy, I don't want to. Those spacers are like $110, $120, $130. You can buy, I think there was like a 3/4 and a 3/8. Probably 3/8 would be enough, but I don't want to spend that money. I really don't. Edelbrock has a little bit thicker gasket, but it's only like maybe, I don't know, a 1/16, maybe just a little hair more than that. I'm not sure that's going to really make the difference that I need. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to wait until it's in the car. So I've talked myself into my own work stoppage. So anyway, but this is how it goes. I mean, this is all part of the hobby. So you've got all these different parts from different manufacturers, and you're trying to slam everything together and make something. And sometimes stuff just doesn't work, or sometimes you have to modify things. It's just it's part of the game, right? If you're not willing to play that game, then you might want to get out. Anyway, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it here, and I'm going to start working on the front pulleys. Got a lot of reaction from that with the serpentine belt system, so I think that's going to be the next video. I'm actually going to take the brackets. I got to unbolt everything off of them. I got to sandblast them clean, and then I'm going to bring them back in here, and I'll actually set the engine up. That way I can get the balancer on, get the water pump on, put the brackets in place, see what needs to be moved around, see what works, get a good shot of it on the engine stand with like all the accessories on the front. I think I might do that. That'll be kind of neat to look at. Probably do that on the engine stand, get all that worked out instead of trying to do it like squatting down in front of the car when it's in the frame. It's just like too low to the ground. So I think that is the plan. So thanks for being here, even though I really didn't get anything done. And it's all part of the journey of working on a car. Sometimes you do a lot of work and it ends up being torn all apart and you do something different. So anyway, the valve covers may actually work. This I'm really excited about. This is what I want. I want the I want the look of the old, like late 60s, early 70s, big block Olds valve cover. But it may not happen. Depends on the reach of this and how it actually works to get into the car. And I won't know that until it's actually in the frame and up against everything, and I can actually see what kind of room I got. Well, that's it. I already talked about everything. You know all the things: shirt shop, like, subscribe, all that junk. So I'm going to quit talking, and I'm going to go eat some dinner. You go do the same. Hope you have a good night, day, evening, morning, noon, whatever it is for you. This is Hutch from Hutch High Perf. Take it easy, guys.